Hello everyone, welcome back to Sportsbook Review's daily coverage of Euro 2020. I'm your host Martin Green. Today we have three games to cover for you. Hungary versus France in Budapest, then Portugal take on Germany in Munich, and finally Spain versus Poland in Seville. Delighted to have George Gamble back alongside me, and we have another new signing, Ruairidh Barlow from La Liga Lowdown. Welcome, Ruairidh. I filmed regularly with some of your colleagues during the last La Liga season, with Paco, with Ewan, and with Roman. But I'm sure you're the best of the bunch. They were all very knowledgeable, but I'm sure you're gonna leave them in the shade. How have you found the tournament so far?
Yeah, I think it's actually been really good. I was kind of surprised because I think after that incredibly long season for everyone, I think there was a few people, and myself included, who thought it might be a bit of a tired tournament, but it's actually been very exciting, to be honest.
Indeed it has. We've seen some screamers, not least from Patrick Schick, which I suppose probably isn't the most memorable occasion for you from the tournament as a Scotsman. But what do you think? Do you think Scotland have got a chance tonight against England?
I think they have a chance. I think they need to keep it really tight. I think if they concede first, we could be in big trouble. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, England were very composed against Croatia in that opening game. George, big win for Sweden earlier. I had Sweden in under 2.5 goals, so I was very pleased to see that come in. But I was filming, so I missed it. Did you catch any of it? Were they deserving winners?
Oh yeah, 100% in my book. Apart from a late sort of flurry in the final 10 minutes from Slovakia, I'd say Sweden dominated the entire game really. And you were quite lucky in that there's a few chances that probably should have been scored. But obviously a penalty from Forsberg was enough to see the win. But once again, I've raved about him on this show. But Isak obviously plies his trade at Real Sociedad. He's such a talent. There was one point he got the ball at the halfway line, but took on about 4 or 5 players, unleashed a shot that was very, very well saved. And yeah, it could have easily been a few more goals than that. But no, 1-0. So we both got off to a good start for the day on that one.
Glad to hear it, and long may it continue. Yeah, I'm also a big Isak fan. I'm also just a big Real Sociedad fan. I love watching them. What about you, Ruairidh? Do you have a favourite La Liga team, or are you kind of keeping things quite neutral?
I do. I go through soft spots for everyone. I do quite. Real Sociedad are a good watch. I enjoy them. Betis are always kind of a sort of second team for me in the sense that I do like their fans and I like Joaquin and the whole sort of atmosphere around them. So I do like them. But yeah, Sociedad definitely Real Sociedad, one of the better watches in Spain at the minute.
Yeah, I just love their midfield. So much creativity, so much technical ability. Okay, as I say, we've got 3 games to break down for you guys today. But first, please do hit the thumbs up button. Show a bit of love for George and Ruairidh, our dream team here today. And also, subscribe to the channel. Click on that notification bell. Then you'll be informed every time we're about to start a video on Euro 2020 or basketball, baseball, football, UFC, all the different sports we cover. And in the description below the video, you'll find a link to sportsbookreview.com. Please do head over there. You'll read some in-depth analysis, some picks, all sorts of content designed to help you maximize your chances of earning a profit while betting on sports. Okay, we will start in Budapest. We have Hungary versus France. I thought France were very solid, very impressive against Germany in their opener. Probably didn't quite get out of second gear in that match, but they always look pretty solid in defence, and they could have actually won it by a couple more goals. A couple of very tight offside decisions went against them, but I'm sure they'll be feeling pretty confident right now. Hungary held on pretty well for the vast majority of their game against Portugal, but eventually the floodgates opened. What do you think, George? Are we going to see a similar sort of performance again this time? Will it require a bit of patience for France, or do you think they'll just prove too strong throughout the game?
I think it'll follow a similar pattern. Interesting, obviously, what you've said there regarding Hungary and how resolute they were. That's the 7th international in a row that they've not conceded before the 60th minute. And, even looking at France, obviously you've got a couple of offside goals, particularly that Mbappe one, which was a ridiculous finish and obviously very unlucky to have been found offside. But France, they created just 0.32 in XG compared to Germany's, I think it was 1.09. So Germany actually had the better chances if you're discounting the offside goals, which I thought was quite a ridiculous stat, because using the eye test, just watching the game, it looked like France kind of dominated the whole thing and probably fashioned more chances, but not according to the data. But yeah, the thing is with France, I've mentioned before, they know how to play tournament football. If things aren't going their well, if things are tight, they don't panic. They know that they'll get that opening. So I think it could be quite tight. I don't see a massive amount of goals in this one. I think they just sort of tied out against Portugal in the end. But even so, those chances for Portugal, you can look at it and say, yeah, they won 3-0 and it was a dominating display. But the first goal took a massive deflection. The next one was a penalty. And after that, I think they just kind of down tools a bit. So I don't think you can read too much into that 3-0 scoreline, in my opinion. But yeah, looking at France, they've won 7 of their last 8 Euro matches. They've got a very good record against Hungary, winning their last 3 against them in all competitions. Hungary have seen over 2.5 goals in their last 3 matches against France in all competitions. But yeah, I just think with the last sort of 6 goals that Hungary conceded now arriving after the 75th minute, I think it'll be tight, but I think France see it all the way there. And the fact that France on their travels, this one's being held at the Puskas Arena again, so it'll be a good atmosphere. But France have won their last 8 away games away from home to 0. So yeah, for me, I think it's going to be tight. I don't see Hungary scoring. I think France is probably stronger defensively than Portugal. I think Portugal's back line's a bit questionable, and they still couldn't score against them and didn't generate hardly any chances against Portugal. So for me, I think it's a very simple France win to 0 for me on this one.
Like it. Yeah, that was what really impressed me about France, was just how resolute they were in defence, with N'Golo Kante providing a screen for
brilliant.
Varane and Kimpembe. I think Kimpembe's a bit of an upgrade. So
it'll be interesting to see if Pogba and Kante start again. I believe that's 23 games that they've started together now that they've never been on the losing side for France. It's a great record.
Yeah, I suppose if you were going to rest Kante, this would be the game in which to do it, because he does have a niggling injury and stuff. But I think it's important for them to try to sew up qualification for the next round.
Yep.
I'm also going for France to win 2-0 in this game. I actually had a little small bet before the tournament started on Hungary to be the team that scored the fewest goals. Just think they're a good team, but it's their misfortune to have been drawn alongside 3 genuine heavyweights in France, Portugal and Germany, winners of the last 3 major tournaments available to European teams. So, feel a bit sorry for them, but I don't think they're going to have much joy against a very strong French team here. What do you like, Ruairidh? You sent me over some correct scores, and I think you're going for a reasonably comfortable win for France in this one.
Yeah, I'd expect them to win sort of along the same lines as yourselves. I'd probably say 2 to 3-0. Hungary, I think from their point of view, Marco Rossi, the manager, has to think our plan worked against Portugal. They kept it tight. They got to the sort of 84th minute and they did have the goal disallowed. So I think for them, they'll keep it much the same. France, Didier Deschamps is a man of control. That's what he likes. That's what he goes for. And so it'll be interesting to see if he goes a little more attacking, because Hungary will try and crowd that middle of the park, which France also do. And they have their sort of 3-5-2. They'll have wing backs. And the natural place for you to get at that is down the flanks. And Benjamin Pavard and Lucas Hernandez, for as good as they are, they're not known for their attacking prowess. And so I think it'll be interesting to see what Deschamps does, but relatively comfortable, I think, for France as well. I think, that has to be the bet. That has to be the sort of line of thinking for me.
Great, thanks. I thought that Karim Benzema was very dangerous in that game against Germany. I really do think he's a massive upgrade on Olivier Giroud. He thought he'd scored. He wheeled away in celebration, but it was chalked off for offside. So it's not in my official picks, but I did have a little bet on Benzema to score at any time in this game. But I believe you have a different anytime goal scorer that you're looking at, Ruairidh, for this one.
Yeah, for me, the best sort of value or line of thinking has to be Antoine Griezmann, because if you looked at the games just before France kicked off this tournament, he was the guy that was most in form out of Mbappe, Benzema and Griezmann. And as much as he's perhaps the more sort of hard-working, very sort of modest star compared to those other two, he has a really good record of A, opening the scoring, and B, scoring against the sort of middle to lower tier teams in La Liga. That's where his forte comes from. And so Hungary represent a similar challenge in that respect. And he's really good at finding space when there appears to be none. That's where he excels in my book. So for me, Griezmann is a good option. Obviously, Benzema and Mbappe are never bad options either. It has to be said.
Indeed, Ruairidh. And Barsaman in the chat is going with you as well. He's also got Griezmann to score at any time. Mashari's going for France to win with Mbappe to score at plus 225 in European odds. Poker Factory TV's going for France to win to 0 and Mbappe to score as a little same game parlay there. Like all of those, yeah, I think this should be a pretty good win for France, where their forwards really shine and come to the fore. Okay, the next game we have is Portugal versus Germany at the Alliance Arena in Munich. Tasty game. Two really, really big teams. Obviously, Portugal got off to the perfect start. It wasn't easy for them, but they were patient and disciplined, and they eventually got the job done. They look better to me than they were 5 years ago when they won this tournament. The likes of Jota and Fernandes and Ruben Dias have come through. Really good going forwards, pretty strong at the back. Not going to be an easy game for Germany, but they're staring down the barrel of an early elimination if they lose this one. So, a lot to play for. What do you like, Ruairidh? What are you going for in this one?
I think this will be a score draw. I think it will be tight. I think you can bank on that because, as you say, Germany, they very much have to have their own mortality in mind with this game. But on the other hand, Portugal, they also, if they were to lose this game, then they go into France needing something from that tie. And so I think a draw suits both teams here. I think if you're looking for more value, cards might be somewhere to look towards, because I think as the game goes on, it gets tetchy. Both sort of defensive setups will be wary of conceding or letting that counter-attack develop. I think Portugal, for me, are a really interesting side in the sense that Fernando Santos, his Portugal side that won the tournament, they are better on paper, but that side had a real sort of identity in the sense that they wanted to keep it tight. They wanted to base it off their sort of back 5-6 players, and then we'd find a goal from somewhere. Cristiano Ronaldo is, again, quite a good source of goals. And this team is...
Yeah.
He's not bad. He's not bad. And this team it's got more technical ability and I think more ambition about it. But it'll be interesting to see just how that sort of dichotomy between Fernando Santos's natural conservatism and the players he now has at his disposal works out. I think it'll be interesting to view that as the tournament goes on, certainly.
Interesting. Yeah, it was that dichotomy that urged me to go for Portugal and under 3.5 goals in that first game. And just about came off. One more goal and my bet would have gone bust, but fortunately they only got 3. And yeah, they are a relatively conservative team, given his tactical approach, considering the wealth of attacking talent that they have at their disposal. You mentioned cards. I don't think you've got it in your official picks, George, but you're our resident cards expert nowadays. So did you see any sort of angles on the card front that you liked in this game?
Well, I've spoken previously, international tournaments like the Euros and that kind of thing, particularly when it's just the Euros and there's no kind of South American teams in it. It's so inconsistent for cards from one game to the next. And, teams, it's like, yeah, there's definitely cards in that game. For example, Scotland against Czech Republic, I thought there might be a couple in there. None. And then there's been other games that there's been about 4. It's just, yeah. So for me, there was no cards angle on this one. I tend to kind of look towards the referees, but there was kind of a bet that stood out for me in this one, away from cards. But yeah, I just think with Portugal, they're a team for the big occasion. They do like to keep things very tight. But for me, the angle's coming from more of a potential team selection side of things. You look at Bernardo Silva. He came off with 20 minutes to go in the last match, but his work rate and pressing is exactly what Santos kind of will value against this Germany side. And I kind of think that William Carvalho might drop out for someone like Renato Sanchez, who obviously did well in the last game too. I just think they're going to be looking to press Germany and just work solidly. And I think I agree with you, Roy. I do think a draw is the most likely outcome in this one. But if Portugal did go on and get the win, they go into that game with France, it not being as big, if you like, knowing that they've kind of qualified. But for Germany, it's huge. But yeah, I was also looking, and Matthias Ginter, he's a major doubt for Germany because he came off injured in that game against France. So that means Emre Can should probably take his place. And I'm not the biggest fan of Can. He's a bit of a liability whenever I've seen him play. And a mistake from him could see Portugal obviously take that lead. I think he could be a key man for all the wrong reasons for Germany if he should play. But yeah, just looking at Portugal, as I said, they're a team for the big occasion. They've not been trailing at half time in the last 13 Euro games. And I just think, as I said, I think they're just the masters of an occasion like this, knowing what they need to do, of getting the job done. So for me, and I look at it as well, the attacking options for Germany, Serge Gnabry is going to be a big miss for them. It's amazing kind of his curvature in terms of form over the past few years, but he's worked away from the main group and is rated as a doubt. So like I said, he'll be a big miss, and he had arguably probably the best chance that Germany had against France, in my opinion. But I think going into this for Portugal, knowing that potentially a draw is a good result after a result that they've already had, for me, I think I see this being tight, but I don't see Germany in the way that they were playing. I wasn't very impressed with them against France. I thought they'd imposed themselves more, and like I said, apart from that brief spell, they didn't really muster anything, and they didn't really take control of the game through large spells. So for me, this has got Portugal double chance and under 3.5 goals written all over it, and I quite like that one at 2.1 or plus 110.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you're combining it for a same game parlay, or a bet builder, as we would call it over here, 2.1. So regardless of which comes in, it's got to be either Portugal or the draw, and under 3.5 goals in the game. I like that. Yeah, I'm leaning towards Portugal out of the two teams. I did think that Germany looked a little toothless in attack against France. Maybe there's no great shame in that because they are a very strong team, but they didn't have much penetration in that game for me.
No.
I worry about Germany's defence. Like you say, Emre Can, he's a good midfielder for Liverpool, but a pretty shocking defender at times for Borussia Dortmund. He doesn't fill me with much confidence. Matt Hummels is pretty cumbersome back there too. When you get pacey forwards, this is why I think the likes of João Felix could come on and play a role in this game. Jota looks pretty dynamic and dangerous when he gets on the ball too. I can see Portugal getting on the score sheet in this one. But for me, it's just unfathomable to think of Germany going a second game in a big tournament like this without scoring. They've got to get on the score sheet for me in this one. I'm not sure who's going to do it. Gnabry might be out, but someone like Kai Havertz, someone's got to come in and break the deadlock for them. Still not 100% convinced by Pepe. I think they might get on the score sheet once in this game. So I've just gone simple, both teams to score at minus 115. But I do think this is going to be a really tight, tense game. All right, thanks, guys, for breaking that one down with me. Our final match is Spain versus Poland. And that Spain game against Sweden, that was the most turgid 90 minutes of football I've seen in a long, long time. Way to dominate the ball and create absolutely nothing. In the end, Sweden had two glorious chances to win the game. I think Spain were a little bit fortunate in the end that Marcus Berg especially blazed that strike over the bar. I mean, they look good on the ball, but there wasn't much urgency from them. They're up against the Poland team. As we said on the show yesterday, everything went wrong for Poland in that game. Bounced back off the post and it was a Szczesny own goal. Then they had a man sent off just as they were starting to dominate the game and they ended up losing. Now they're bottom of the group on 0 points. Can Spain have a bit more urgency, have a bit more thrust? And what's he going to do with his starting 11, Ruairidh? Do you think he's going to make some changes? Could we see the likes of Oyarzabal or maybe Adama Traore coming in from the start? He's got some selection dilemmas for me. What sort of team? Do you expect the same team or do you expect a few changes for this game?
It's funny you should come to me on that because the big debate in Spain, the one that everyone is talking about, is Alvaro Morata. And he did miss that gilt-edged chance in the game. Lots of people want to see Gerard Moreno, and you can understand why. He scored 30 goals and 11 assists this season. He is, for me, an option that makes sense. But today, Luis Enrique, being the stubborn guy that he is, came into his press conference and told everyone that it was Morata and Diaz-Mas, Morata and 10 more. So he'll be starting. So we know that for sure. But I don't think there'll be huge changes. I think that Sweden-Spain game, it was a game that could be viewed. I think if you're a Sweden fan, you view it from the perspective of our plan worked and we were unlucky not to score. From a Spain perspective, you view it from they were good for about 70 minutes, take out 20, 30 of those minutes, and they weren't great in that period. But they had chances. They could have won that game. For me, I thought that they were a little bit unfortunate as well. And if Morata had deigned to finish some of those chances, then they would have been in the money, and we wouldn't be analysing it from that point of view. So trying to stray away from the results a little bit. I do like Spain in this match. Poland, for all their Lewandowski, have not shown me much to convince me that they can really trouble this Spain side. And so for me, the pick that I most like is perhaps Spain -1. And I think if you do want value, Gerard Moreno, I don't know if he'll play instead of Morata. Well, he won't, according to Luis Enrique, but he will either come on, I'm certain of it, or start from the right-hand side. And I fancy him to get the last goal in this. And I think that is a good option if you're looking for a little more value there.
Yeah, that does look like a good option for a little prop bet for a specials betting market. I think we got odds of about 4-1 on Moreno to score the last goal. Like you said, he was devastating throughout the season for Villarreal, and I'm surprised he's not starting. He looks like a much more dangerous player than Morata to me. Ruairidh was saying Spain -1. That'll be Spain -1 on the European handicap, which is equivalent to Spain -1.5 on the Asian handicap. I think you can get around sort of even money on that sort of bet. I think you were sort of looking at perhaps a Spain win to 0 as well. Do you think Poland can get on the score sheet in this one?
Not for me. I was listening actually to Jan Urban, who used to play in Spain for Osasuna, and he's a Polish striker. And they were talking to him on El Transistor on the radio and saying, what are the chances of Lewandowski causing Spain real problems here? And his view on it was that it's all very well having Lewandowski, but if he doesn't get near the box or he doesn't get the ball in the box, then what's the point in having him? And very much so. There's no pace that I think can really threaten Spain. There's nothing to really be concerned about if you're a Spanish fan. And Lewandowski does need some help. He's 32, 33 now. He can't do it all on his own. And if he's dropping deep to create, then you're not too worried about Frankowski. He's not a player that you're going to be overly bothered about. So for me, Spain win to 0 is a really good bet. I think you're odds in, but as we know, football can do that to you.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if he were to get the sort of chances that Isak and Berg had in that Sweden game, I think Lewandowski would gobble them up and put them in. But like you say, it's whether they can find the right supply to him. He was a bystander pretty much against Slovakia. So yeah, whether they can get the ball to him, probably not. Sounds pretty good to me. George, what are you going for in Spain versus Poland?
Yeah, I was looking at this one, kind of just going back to what Rory said. It's interesting. It does sound like typical Luis Enrique, though, to say, no, this is what I'm doing. I don't care what anyone else thinks. And but yeah, for me, I think, Gerard Moreno has been excellent for Villarreal on that, cutting in from that right-hand side, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong. But that's where he's been obviously absolutely pivotal for Villarreal this season. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him on that right-hand side. But yeah, that last game against Sweden, 85% of the possession, which is the largest ever figure in a single tournament by full time. And it did make me laugh because a lot of journalists were saying, no, Spain are no longer this side that just, that can pass and keep the ball. That's not the sort of side they are. And I was looking at the stats, and so far at that point in the tournament, they were 6th in the most completed passes, and it was only half time. And it was it was just ridiculous. But yeah, that means they've kind of made it 2 scoring blanks in their last 3 fixtures, and that's the same amount that they'd suffered in the previous 51 matches. So goals have been hard to come by for them, it seems. But despite that kind of perceived false start, if you like, they're unbeaten 14 internationals on home soil, returning usually an impressive about 2.93 goals per game on average, and taking 11 clean sheets as well. But the thing that I found similar to what you thought with Germany, Martin, I don't see them going 2 games without scoring, and they've not failed to score in back-to-back fixtures since the 2013 Confederations Cup. So that's a long time. So I don't see any way that they don't score in this game. So I'm completely in agreement with you that I think Spain win this. And also, but another loss here would make it just almost an impossible task for Poland to try and get obviously into that knockout round. And they've just got a record of 1 win from their previous 5 away games. So it doesn't offer any kind of hope for them, really. But yeah, they've conceded 5 goals in their last 2 away games, winning just once in their last 8. Like I said, a 3-0 win over Andorra. And Andorra aren't exactly a side with any quality, with all due respect to them. But yeah, for me, Spain, they've got obviously an array of attacking talent. I think if Moreno starts, and obviously if he's going to go with Morata up top, I just think there's too much quality in the Spain side to go 2 games without scoring. I don't think that happens. And I think Spain win this one relatively comfortably, but I think comfortably performance-wise, as opposed to what the scoreline will tell you.
Yeah.
I just personally think Spain to win it is obviously a certainty, but I'm going to go with under 3.5 goals as well, because you can get that at plus 2.05, which is, sorry, I'm having a mare here. European odds is 2.05 and American odds is plus 105, and that's on 365, and I think that's a solid bet.
Yeah, no, that looks good to me too, George. Yeah, I think Krychowiak is going to be a miss because it's the man that screens that Poland defence. And I don't really want to see, I'm not Luis Enrique, as we all know, but I want to see him put Thiago Alcantara in that team. I don't really see the point in playing Rodri and Koke as 2 kind of holding midfielders when you're coming up against a team that's going to defend quite doggedly, I suppose. So if he's out, I want to see someone like Thiago coming into the team and bossing things in that midfield. I also would love to see Moreno start. Obviously, we know now that he's not going to, but maybe a bit more directness and dynamism down those flanks with Traore and Oyarzabal as well for me. Bit more, maybe that can happen in the second half. But I also think Spain can win. I do think they can win by 2 clear goals, actually. I've gone for Spain minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap. So I get a full profit if they win by 2. I only lose half my stake if they win by 1. And I got odds of minus 111 on that, which I quite like the look of. Esteban, can we have the picks, please? I will read them out. Thank you very much, Esteban. Oh, got a lot there from Ruairidh, which is great. George is going for France to win to 0 at minus 110. He's got a draw double chance, Portugal draw double chance, and under 3.5 goals in that game at plus 110. And he's also going for Spain and under 3.5 goals in their game at plus 105. Ruairidh's going for France minus 1.5 at plus 100. Antoine Griezmann just to score at any time at plus 160. He's got Portugal, Germany under 2.5 goals at minus 120. But he did say that he also quite likes both teams to score. So maybe a 1-1 correct score bet there. Spain to win to 0, we've got here at plus 120. But he's also saying he likes the idea of giving Spain a 1-goal handicap, which kind of fits in with what I'm thinking about Spain too. He's also got a longer odds one for you, perhaps with a slightly smaller stake. He's going for Moreno to score last. Plus 400. That looks pretty good to me. I think he will get off the bench at some point and have an impact in this game. I'm just going for France to cover the spread at minus 1.5. I've got odds of plus 100 on that. I'm also going for both teams to score in the Portugal versus Germany game at minus 115. And as I say, I've got Spain minus 1.25 Asian handicap at minus 111. Whew, got through all that. Thank you very much, Esteban. Right, just while I've got you here, I've been asking everyone who they think is going to win the tournament, but seeing as this is your debut, Ruairidh, who are you going for as things stand right now? Guns ahead, futures bet on who's going to win this thing?
It is really hard to look beyond France. They just have so much quality, and the way that they play, the way that they look to sort of defend and then hit you on the break with Mbappe is really hard to shut out. So France for me, and if you want somewhere a little bit beyond the sort of obvious candidates, I think maybe Portugal are a good shout. I think they play good tournament football.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't like the prospect of England potentially facing them in the next round. That doesn't sound good at all. George, has anything happened to change your opinion since we last asked you, based on what we've seen?
In a nutshell, no. It's going to be, yeah, I'm sticking with France for me. I can't seem to find a chink in their armour at the moment. Obviously, I know that they've only played obviously Germany, but nevertheless, I feel like that would have been a big test for them, and they just absolutely breezed it, and didn't look trouble once. And I just think that defence is so solid, and when you've got a foundation like that for the likes of Mbappe, Griezmann, and Benzema to build on, I think you're going to go very far, if not win it. And I often find the best defences tend to win tournaments, and their defence just looks incredible. So yeah, France for me.
Yeah, me too. I'm completing the set, especially when you've got Kante in those big knockout stage games. I think he'll just boss the midfield. Great. Thanks very much, guys, for watching on. Thank you to George and Ruairidh for joining us for this video. Before you leave, gently tap on that thumbs up, please. Show a bit of love for the guys. And as I say, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and you will hear every time we're about to make a video covering all sorts of sports, including all the games at Euro 2020. Thanks very much, guys. Hope you have a good weekend. Hope all your bets are winners, and goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All the best.